This episode of the Digital Tourism Show was brought to you today by Rentrax, fully customizable rental management systems for tour operators. You can book your free demo at rentrax.com. Over the last 12 months, pivoting your business has been key to making sure that you survive during this pandemic. This could be pivoting towards a completely domestic market, away from your traditional international market, or it can be in something completely different. It's all about making sure that you can pay yourself and you have a life for you and your families, as well as hopefully those people who have been helping you out through this in terms of your staff and your tour guides. Now, in this episode, I'm going to be speaking with 4 operators from across the world, all of whom have pivoted their business in some form or fashion. I'm going to be speaking with Lauren Hefferon of Ciclismo Classico, Daud Grewal of Seaside Tours, Daud Littlefield of the Main Brew Tours, and Gábor Bánfalvi of Taste Hungary. Now, each one of these offers advice on how they have pivoted their business, offering advice to other operators on how you can pivot your business, and they're sharing their insights into what has been successful and what has not been successful. So if you are still struggling in terms of where you can take the direction of your business, whether it's thinking completely outside the box or looking more inwards towards your business, then this is an episode I urge you to watch and not to miss. So welcome to the Digital Tourism Show, episode 254. Hi guys, how are we all?
Hello.
Hey, Chris.
So we have Lauren Hefferon, and I apologise in advance if I get anyone's name wrong. I've had it. I've had previous for this, so apologies. So please can we welcome Lauren Hefferon of Ciclismo Classico, and we have Daud Littlefield of the Main Brew Bus, Gábor Bánfalvi of Taste Hungary. I hope I did. I hope I got that one right. And Daud Grewal of Seaside Tours. So everyone, thanks again and welcome for joining us. So thank you. So I'm going to start with yourself, Lauren, and work our way around. If you want to just give a little bit about your business, who you are, and what your business is all about.
Sure. Well, it's my 31st year of Ciclismo Classico. I started in 1989, graduated from college, went to Italy, been a cyclist my whole life, and essentially just started with a couple of tours in 1989 when there was not a lot of bicycle tour happening in the world, and kind of boomed into quite a nice niche, boutique bicycle tours of Europe with a focus on Italy. So we were in our 31st year this year, and so that's sort of the basic of what my company does. And educational luxury bicycle tours is essentially what we do. But I'm really proud of having been kind of one of the pioneers of the bicycle tour industry, so to speak. And I'm a lifer. I'll be in it for life, no matter what I do. I'll be sharing my bicycle with people.
Excellent. Daud, yourself?
I was born and raised here in Niagara Falls. I started my company back in high school when I used to work at a local tourist attraction and saw, other companies cramming people in big buses. And I thought I could do a better job in my mom's family then. So that's how I started off. So now we do sightseeing tours, small group tours in different cities across Canada. And we have a jet boat operation as well in St. John, New Brunswick. And so, it was all going well until the pandemic.
As it was with everyone. Yourself, Daud, about yourself as well?
Yeah, thanks. My name is Daud Littlefield. I'm the general manager of Brew Bus Tours, which is most notably the Main Brew Bus in Portland, Maine in USA. That's our most mature company. It's just celebrated our 8-year anniversary. Nothing like Lauren's longevity, but 8 is good. We're typically a small bus experience for travelers to go and enjoy craft beverages behind the scenes, beer, wine, and spirits that are locally made. And we have sister companies in Boston, Massachusetts, as well as in Providence, Rhode Island. And then earlier this year, in March, in a stroke of perfect timing, we acquired another company that has 10 locations scattered throughout the country doing the same thing. So that's been an interesting adventure as well.
I'm sure we'll talk about that. Gábor, yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name is Gábor. I'm co-owner and co-founder of Taste Hungary. We are based in Hungary, Budapest. We started the company 12 years ago in 2008 in the middle of a different crisis. Me and my wife started this, and over the 12 years, the company grew much, much bigger than we ever imagined. We started here in Budapest with short 3 and 4 hour long walking tours, all focused on food and wine. Hungary is a very proud winemaking country and a great food and wine destination. And then from there, we built longer tours, first just day trips, then vacations in Hungary, then in the region, Austria and Croatia and Slovenia. And then we were always pretty interested in trying different related aspects of tourism, or not just tourism, but the wine and hospitality business. So along the way, we opened a wine tasting cellar in Budapest. This is where I'm sitting now. And this is called the tasting table, and it became a really important integral part of what we do. We started online wine sales, and we also started a wine import company to the US. So we sell wine online in the EU and in the US. And yeah, everything was great. 2020 January and February were record months for the first 2 months of the year, and then the crash happened.
The crash, that's one way of putting it. So yeah, the next crash that after you started up in 2008. So obviously, for anyone who's just joined, this episode is all about the guys who you can see here in front of you, how they have pivoted their business or what they've done to survive during COVID and the outlook of COVID going forward. And what that means for their business. So, Lauren, if I can start with yourself, obviously you've managed to, and forgive me if I'm wrong, you've managed to focus your business more on domestic and created a close to home products, etc., and really hone down on that. Would you like to give a little more insight into how you've done that, or what the challenges you had with it?
Sure. Well, I won't forget February 28th when COVID started going all over Italy. So I just, I had about 2 weeks of like hell, obviously. And then I had to quickly get myself my attitude shift. I had to take a major attitude shift. And when I have to take a major attitude shift, the first thing I is bicycle a lot. So I spent most of many days and many hours on my bicycle. And I knew that I had to get into creativity mode, and I had to go to my purpose, which was cycling, as I said. I always knew that no matter what I do, I was going to be on a bicycle. And of course, where I live is beautiful. I live in New England, and so right away I had no problem with happening bicycle tours in New England. And another thing that I'm always committed about is bicycling as an activity is here to stay. It's here forever, and it's here to stay. So as soon as I became convicted about that attitudinally, I just started getting hopeful, and I started getting busy, and I could not think anytime a negative thought came to my head, I had to pretty much get busy and keep moving forward, keep moving forward. And I had to be ready to fail all the time. I had to be ready to try. And I just had to be my best self, my best resilience. And so then we started, I started thinking, okay, where could we go and what could New England look like? So basically, I decided to, first of all, of course, cut all my non-essentials by 80%. I got very close to my core team and became very grateful for them. And I began imagining domestic tours, both doing them myself directly, guiding them and having a van support for them, as well as working with small domestic partnerships. I also developed one-day bike tours that I would lead in the area, and I call them story rides. And so that was what I did to pivot the company. But I also realized I believe in win. And the second win I had to consider was my team in Italy, and I couldn't just abandon them. I felt awful. I love my guides. I love my team. I love Italy. And so we created a guide cookbook. Well, they created a guide cookbook. I had each one of my guides contribute a recipe. And we created a digital cookbook. And in conjunction with that digital cookbook, we actually started cooking lessons with our guides every week. And we created a fundraiser with GoFundMe. And over a 2-month period, we raised $50,000 for the guides. And that was distributed entirely to our guides. And we have 20 or so participated. So it took a while and it took a lot of work, but I felt good about it because I love them, and they are really one of the main reasons that I'm here, and our customers love them as well. And so they had no problem contributing to this fundraiser. The cooking lesson, like I said, was a way to keep marketing alive without spending any money, essentially. Just learned how to do Zoom. I started calling all my customers. Literally, we called every single 2020 customer and got on the phone with them. And it was just back to high touch. It's back to the way I started my business, which is one customer at a time, one conversation at a time, one opening up your heart at a time. And then, everything was simultaneous. Like, this is not all happening at once. And then, we started the partnerships, and we started developing the trips, and we started putting them out there. And, the summer was tough because states were closing. So, it was constantly moving every day. I had one of my guides, who's been helping me out, and he's been fantastic. I had, 2 other people on staff as well. And everybody, we just got really close. We got really focused on getting to the other side. We also had a Ciclismo Classical Bike Travel Film Festival, which is launched in the spring. It's usually all over the country, including in Arlington. And we went online. And we created our Bike Travel Film Festival online. We just did it again last week, and we raised, I don't know, $5,000 or $6,000. And now we're getting ready for our second guide fundraiser. And this time around, my guides, I've asked them to write an essay about their favorite ride. And it's going to be our guides' favorite rides. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a GoFundMe. It's going to actually I'm going to try to actually make it a real book. And we're going to do the cooking. So we're going to kind of repeat what worked. And we're launching a whole new season of domestic trips, which I'm really excited about because I live here, and this allows me to, kind of be on the trips again and be a tour guide again, and to get closer to my customers. And so it's all good. It's just hard, but it's all good. It's all good. I mean, the lessons that we learned, the successful pivots to take are all good. The difficulty level is extraordinary. You know what I mean? The travel business. Hug your friend in the travel business next time you see them, because everyone out there I know, and I'm not, I just felt attitudinally, I'm not alone. Like that continued every single day. I just knew that my colleagues and people in the business were going through the same thing all the time. So those were, that was sort of it attitude and actions kind of on a daily basis. What's my attitude going to be today? And what actions am I going to take? So it kept me sort of like I was in a offense mode all the time. So that's sort of the basic, and just kept biking. I biked 10,000 miles. I haven't biked this much. I don't even remember when. I biked so much. I would call them my serenity ride. In the springtime, I was literally going out, and I didn't go fast. It's not like I'd go out and I would just ride and I would ride until these ideas would sink into my fiber, right? I would just ride until I said, okay, I got this. It was very cathartic. And it's what I've always done, whether I've lost a friend or a family member, or I'm happy. Cycling has always been it's my meditation motion practice. So it worked. It really did. Mm-hmm. So I have to thank my bicycle first and foremost.
No, it sounds like you had your hands full, that's for sure, with all the different initiatives and everything else you took. The idea with the cookbook and the fundraising and everything else, I love that. I think that's fantastic. And with the fundraising that you did that basically allow you to keep those guys employed and everything else? So
not employed, but not at all, because they, it wasn't at all what they earn normally, but it was something, and it was a way for me to just, they were all very grateful. So they were super grateful. But, I think it taught a lesson. Like, I think it just told everybody we're in this together, and that we're going to be stronger together than we are apart. And I always believe that. And it allowed me to, I think it allowed us to show our best selves. The cooking lessons were super fun. We got to go into the kitchens of our guides' families, and saw their kids and their mothers, and it was super nice. I'm getting shivers. And we had a couple hundred people at those cooking lessons. I mean, so I got some new leads, whatever you want to make out of a marketing point of view. But there had a marketing purpose. But for the most part, it was really about showing what we can do with our talent. Like, it's not just about peddling. It's what can we do with our purpose, which is what we love, what we're really good at, and how can we communicate that to others. And that's the essence of, you have to kind of get bored with the essence of who you are. And that's that kind of that it was about the essence of who we are as a company.
Mm-hmm. No, I love that. And no, when it comes to marketing, I'm a big fan of being able to show the personality behind the business, the tour guys, the owners and everything else. And that just sounds like an amazing medium to be able to do that and actually show that and really highlight how good your team is and everything else. So I love that. Absolutely love that. I think you could tell lots of good stories for years to come off the back of that, to be honest.
Well, so, we know that bicycling boomed. Of anything that boomed this year, bicycling is here to stay. And I don't think the bike industry has ever experienced more people bicycling than ever. And the outdoors is a winner as well. And we're all in the I'm in the outdoor business, and so we know that the outdoors was a winner because people realize how important it is to be in nature and outdoors.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, we'll come back to you in a second, and I'll come up with some more questions. So, Daud, you pivoted your business in a slightly different way. You actually moved sort of away from tourism to help out the community, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, I started thinking about this back in December, January in my head, saying, okay, well, if this spreads, worst case scenario, we're looking at probably like completely having no business this season, similar to what happened with SARS back in 2003, where Canada was largely affected with SARS, even though there was as much of a spread as we have with this pandemic. So I started thinking about it early on, and in February, I sat down with some of my senior members and sat down with them, had a serious conversation saying, guys, listen, like if this thing actually, spreads, we might be in a situation where we'll have to consider laying almost all of our staff off, laying off all our managers and shutting down completely and just going down to a skeleton crew. And so we started talking about that early on. And then as things progressed, we started to do our weekly meetings. We did weekly coronavirus kind of all hands meetings where all the staff members were there. I don't think all the staff members took it too seriously early on. They just thought I was just, planning for worst case scenarios. But then it quickly became apparent that we needed to have a plan and have a plan fast, because if we didn't have a plan, we would be looking at laying off. So my primary goal, and I think the goal of everybody involved, was to make sure that we could just keep everybody on, right? And so we looked at different ways we strategized, we looked at different options, and we looked at what resources we had. So we had vehicles, we had staff available. So we initially looked at a delivery model in March of like delivering groceries and different things, and that didn't seem like it was gonna pan out as a way to sustain everybody's salaries and sustain our overhead costs. So as we went down and we kind of explored different options, we came to the idea of doing, and I was able to get a contract to be able to do deliveries for Amazon, to do prime deliveries for Amazon in different cities and the different cities that we operate in. So, I mean, my team was great. I mean, I was actually stuck in Amman, Jordan at the time. I had left in February, and I was stuck in. They were in complete military lockdown, so I was trying to pivot from another country, which was challenging. But it was. I mean, we have a great team, and I really, it's all about the team members that we have, the managers. They really stepped up, and we had people. We're in Niagara here. They moved. They went up to like Peterborough, which is about 3-4 hours away from here, and they went and they spent a lot of time and energy building up that carrier service there and in the East Coast. And it's not fun work. It's not like guiding. It's not like going out and spending time with guests around the world interacting. It's a lot of fun. This is just go deliver the package. You're in a time limit, so it wasn't the funnest experience, but it really helped us sustain ourselves through this process. And we did bleed. I mean, again, the goal was to stop the bleeding as soon as possible. I think it took about 5-6 months of bleeding, of paying out salaries and stuff like that. And the Canadian government really came through with their grants, the CEWS program, the CEBA program. All these programs they put through has actually helped us quite a bit to stay the course and not have to lay off people. And that was, to me, that's success. I mean, the goal here wasn't to make money. Really, it was just to be able to make it through and make sure that nobody's livelihood is affected negatively. And so to that end, I think we've been successful, and we've been happy with the way things have been going. So yeah, that's
So when are
kind
you
of
hoping? Where you are at the moment, obviously, when is there any light at the end of the tunnel? When are you expecting or hoping that tours will kick off again, and you can go away from the Amazon deliveries and go back onto doing what
I
you're
mean,
actually set up to do?
yeah. I mean, we're hoping with the new vaccine coming out that things will be looking good for this season. Again, we're ready to keep at it until tourism comes back. Of course, there's not much room for marketing and these kind of things, but we're just trying to hold tight until things open up. I mean, for us, we basically had 98% revenue loss, right? Like the American border shut, right? Canada's not really letting in anybody else, and most of our travelers, like 95% of our travelers are from overseas, right? They're from the United States and other countries. So
98.
really,
Yeah, that I just shudder at that figure that you've lost that.
yeah. So I mean, so I really am proud of my team that we've been able to come through this without falling apart and without having to lose staff. And so as long as we can keep on doing that, and we can survive till things open up again, the borders open up again, and I'm sure everybody here is going to be really, really happy to go back to doing what they love doing.
Yeah. And I think that's the reason why I thought it was really important to get you on here as well. Is it's not just about pivoting to a different aspect within the business to offer tours domestically or anything like that. I understand for some businesses that's a lot harder, but it's highlighting the fact that you've managed to keep your team together, because that's so important for any travel business, any tourism business, especially tour operators. If you can keep your team together and your tour guides together and not have them going off to different companies and you end up losing their knowledge and their aspects on things and everything, I think that's hugely important. I have to commend you for just completely looking at something completely different, a completely different industry, just to make sure that you can keep that team together. So I applaud you on that. So,
thank you again. This is all. I was stuck in Jordan, right? So this is all. I want to commend my team. They're really able to step up and make this happen. Yeah.
No, well done. Don, I'll move to yourself now. So I had you on mute there for a second with some background noise. So
I was next to a fire station. I'm sorry.
That's what it'll be then. So you obviously at the start of all this, you mentioned that you parked your fleets, and then you had to refocus to more the domestic market with distilleries, etc. So tell us a bit about that and how that sort of helped you sustain your business through COVID.
Yeah, a couple of pieces of background. Like other folks have indicated, 2020 was off to a great start. The first 9 or 10 weeks, we were up 10% year over year. Part of that, we had chalked it up to, we had really started to diversify our tour offerings. So more than just going to brewery A, B, and C, we had diversified into offerings that included things such as bird watching and axe throwing and learning to curl on ice and partnering with sports teams. Excuse me. Some of those that we were able to bring back, but not many of them. So we also were seeing in 2020 that we were at 50% of our overall revenue was from privately chartered tours, which is an all-time high for us. So obviously we did lose all of that business. I was actually in Ireland at the time that this all happened, leading an international beer tour, which we do a couple of times a year. I was starting to see the European viewpoint of it simultaneously here in the States. We had 5 tours on Saturday, the 14th of March, that had 67 guests. And it just felt kind of wrong. Like we had people kind of in these spaces and it was starting to feel wrong. So we suspended operations after that day. We all came back from Ireland safely, which is great because we had nearly 20 travelers there. And we just shut everything down. No in-person tours for 18 weeks. And just looking at the numbers, the estimated loss of revenue there is in excess of $200,000, just based on the pace of what we had been seeing for the past couple of years. So how did we do that? What did we do? Well, the buses remain parked. They're still parked, to be honest with you. That is not something that people want to do, is to go into a small minibus, a tube with strangers to go to a facility that you're actually not allowed, even now, you're not allowed to be on the inside of, based on our state regulations. So when I got back from Ireland, realizing that we had an opportunity to get the messaging out from our partners, we pivoted to, and I hate that word, we repositioned. There we go. We repositioned to being the authority on local craft alcohol. And we created what we did call virtual tours. But to be honest with you, they were just interviews. They were interviews with the struggling owners and founders and partners of ours that were now trying to get the word out about how you could access their products in completely different ways. So literally that next weekend was our first one. They aired on Instagram Live. I was able to record them after the fact. I edited it. I learned how to edit on the fly, which has been a great skill to come up with. And then we'd post those on YouTube and then also record the audio as a podcast. So that over the next 2 months, we did about 30 different episodes of that sort of format just to get the word out there, which a lot of our partners were thankful for because they didn't really have a direct way to do that. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to early July, our state said, okay, finally breweries, wineries, and distilleries can have guests in person on premise. And we gave them a couple of weeks to kind of figure out what that looked like. And then we tested our first tour. It was actually a biking brewery tour. So not a very long distance. It's only 3 miles. And it's on multi-use paths, not on city streets. And we were able to see how the guests would react to, there were new mandates, there were new restrictions, and there was limited access. We weren't going in behind the scenes at all. So we wanted to see what our guests would really think of that experience. And it was universally enjoyed. It was something to do. It was after being cooped up for a few months. It was interesting. So the test was successful. On the 19th of July, we started our own product, which was a walking tour called Walk, Talk, and Taste because we couldn't come up with a better name. We wanted it to be very descriptive. But honestly, that's a product we developed a couple of years ago. It was never our most successful product because it wasn't bus-based, but now it was about the only native product that we were offering. And it worked. We were able to do that tour twice a day, 7 days a week. And we actually created 2 different new itineraries based on other brewing neighborhoods that were in our city. And then I got right on the email, I guess I would say, to work with boating partners. And the whole idea with this is that we realized that people wanted experiences that were open air. They wanted to be out, feel safe, and be subject to the weather if need be, but not being inside anything. So we expanded an offering that we had previously that was called Sails and Ales on a sailboat for a couple of hours drinking beer. And then created a wine version of that called Waves and Wines and a spirits version of that called Sails and Spirits. And then we also formed a new partnership with a couple of charter boat companies that produced recreated tour products that were harbor cruises, sunset cruises, and lobster demonstration cruises. Because when people come to Maine, they come to vacation land and they want to learn about lobster. Well, it's better if you have a local craft beer in your hand as well. So those were wildly successful as well. And the last one, which I like to joke about, is that we've always had a running brewery tour, running shoes, running to breweries. It has never been that successful whatsoever, but we offered it because together this was over a dozen different open air itineraries, different formats, different time periods, going to different places. Some were physical, some were not. And so before we could really promote this out, we had to make sure that we had our health and safety programs and policies tight right through the booking process. There was a self-certification, a method for compliance where people had to say, yes, we're going to comply with all the rules of the state. But also we have an online waiver that we mandated everybody had to do ahead of time. And that was another form of compliance. And then finally, when the guests appeared in front of us, we said, how did you comply? And they had to tell us one of the approved methods. There were only at the most, there were 7 states that were freely allowed to come into Maine without testing or quarantining. And right now it's down to just one other state. It's just New Hampshire at the moment. So the end result was at the end of last week, we had seen over 800 guests. They came from 33 different states and from the District of Columbia. That meant that the other ones had to comply in one form or fashion. As tests became more readily available, that became easier to do. And then I'm super proud of the fact that with the partners, the ones that were administering these other types of tours, we had 300 guests on our biking tours, over 200 guests on the boating products. And that generated over $30,000 worth of revenue for other companies that are also locally owned tour companies that are struggling. So I will say that nobody actually went running with us for beer. That didn't actually work.
No, it would have been fun to see, especially after a couple of beers.
Yeah.
Don, you and I are going to talk.
Yes, ma'am.
But no, the fact there's a couple of things to highlight there. No, the fact that you've managed to do that is incredible, and keep the whole thing about pivoting your business in for that sort of domestic market and not having the bus type tours. Do you see that being an issue going forward for your business? No, with more and more people maybe looking for smaller groups and maybe more out there. Do you actually see you starting to do more of the products you have developed to make them work just now, rather than doing the bus tours? Do you see your bus product actually being the future of your business because of all this?
Well, we definitely will expand the open air offerings, and we'll have new experiences for guests in the coming years. But we are, really looking forward to getting our core product, the bus-based tours, back. And we had 2 false starts. We were on track to actually have limited tours that would resume this fall. But then our state decided that brewery tasting rooms still had to remain as outside-only establishments with nobody going on the inside. And that meant that really we were only going to brew pubs at that point by bus. And there's also limited capacity available in these facilities, only 50% of your stated capacity. So we knew that our partners weren't going to set aside a table for us as a discounted tour experience when they are desperate to make their money as well. So part of it is, we definitely want to get back to the buses because that is what we're known for. It's literally in our name. But it is clear that we want to have more open air experiences and more varied experiences that are going beyond beer and beyond the bus. There's so much more to experience in the craft producers world that we are able to expand in that area.
And I'm more than sure that the fact that you've helped your partners generate a bit of income for them and everything else, and that will go well for you in the future. They'll remember that, and I think that's as what Laura was saying earlier on as well. It's about working with your partners, working with others in the industry, and just trying to help each other out. And I think being able to do that and generate that little bit of income for your partners, I think they'll certainly remember you, and they'll maybe put some favors your way. I think they owe you a few.
Well, I would say, we recognize that through a lot of hard work, we had very favorable SEO, very favorable ranking. When people are searching things to do in Portland, they often find us front and center, even if they're not looking for beer experiences or craft alcohol at all. We knew we could parlay those contacts into providing other opportunities that were not necessarily about us, but it was about giving the guest an opportunity that they felt safe to experience Portland in new ways.
Mm-hmm. And you're going to continue with the podcasts and the episodes. Do you see that as being a really good marketing tool to keep using past COVID?
I think so. We haven't restarted that program yet, but it was very well received. And it was mostly from our partners who said, thank you. Thank you for giving me a new way to get the word out there about what we're doing. Ours happens to be, focused on producers that are all, small operators. They're all locally owned and operated, and they're all struggling. So providing those opportunities, I think, is the best way for us to move forward. We're not in a position to create a distribution company to ship beer, to do paid for virtual tastings and so forth. There are too many regulations around that. But our strength is telling the stories and connecting with the owners behind the scenes. We can continue to do that in that format.
Excellent. No, it's good to hear. I like that aspect. And if it was me, just from a marketing point of view, continuing those podcasts and videos, I would be urging you to do it because it's more brand awareness. So someone could come to that video or podcast a year down the line, and that could be potentially be a new customer. So it's something I would urge you to keep doing if at all possible.
Agreed.
Gábor, come on to yourself now. So you're more focused on food tours. Obviously, your tours stopped, and you actually did go down the sort of virtual sort of wine tasting route. Is that correct? So tell us a bit about how that process went, and was it challenging? How's that made you? Has that made you survive during this COVID and your staff, etc.? How's that played out for you?
Yeah. So just a bit of background again. So last year we had over 10,000 guests on different tours and tastings. We had a team of 10 full-timers, including ourselves, the 2 founders, and we worked with dozens of freelance guides. So we were set for a very high turnover, and every year, we had an organic growth of at least 20% for the past 10 plus years. So yeah, we were preparing for a great 2020, and then everything stopped all of a sudden, as you all know it. I don't think we could have prepared for this. We are 100% tourism driven, international tourism. So we don't have any local. We didn't have any local customers. This was a conscious decision. We wanted to target both locals and tourists at a time. But then we actually failed to get either one. So we decided, okay, we're going to just keep on doing what we're good at, selling Hungarian, food and wine experiences to visitors. And it was fine. It was working fine. But no, from one day to the next, we lost 99.5, maybe 99.9% of the business. Yeah, I mean, there's no way you can prepare for that. You just can't. I mean, I had nightmares about losing a lot of our business, but never a nightmare like this. So this is where we started in mid-March, and there we were with 10 full-timers. That of course includes paying payroll and social security and a bunch of added overheads. So for a month and a half, it was refunds and just making very bad decisions of who we need to let go. There was no major government funding here, and that's fine. But we had to cut our team back seriously. Now we're down to 4 of us. The 2 founders and then 2 of our really key people. And when I say key people, I hate to say that because everybody else was key as well. But anyway, so we are a food and wine tour company. This is really our focus. We didn't expand to other cities. We didn't start tours, let's say all over Europe, using the same recipe. Instead, we wanted to expand locally, and we opened our tasting cellar, and we wanted to add extra services here in Budapest rather than in other cities. And this this is what we kept doing during the crisis. So we always wanted to start an online wine shop because people were asking us, they had a great wine tasting. They went back to the UK, let's say, and then they had to drop us an email, could I order 10 bottles of this and this wine? And, this is a great way to do it, but there is a much better way. You can just build a web shop and it can be automated and just be done in a more professional way. So we built a website, tastehungary.eu, for our European customers. And we were also in the middle of launching our new wine business in the US, tastehungary.us, which is pretty much the same, but targeting our US, our American clients and friends who miss Hungarian wine. So, we started these 2 new websites, and we also started doing virtual wine tastings. We were considering doing virtual tours. Many tour companies did that, but somehow we felt that wouldn't be a product that would stick with us for the rest of the time, even post COVID. And we didn't want to just do something for the sake of doing something. And nevertheless, having a product that we can sell in 2 continents, that's already amazing, hundreds of millions of people potentially. We decided that the wine tastings or virtual wine tastings are the way to go. These were all free. These were all on Facebook. That is our major platform, social media platform. And yeah, I mean, we created packages. People could pre-order, in advance the wines that either me or one of my colleagues was talking about. We had a couple of different timings, one for the European followers, one for the American followers. Then sometimes we combine this with cooking. Our sommeliers also know how to cook, So let's say tomorrow night there will be a sommeliers in the kitchen show. Sometimes we combine this with just some casual talk about tourism, some history talk. But there was always a wine focus, and there was always the possibility of people purchasing this wine. So we were looking at this as a money-making tool. If you look at how much time and work went into this, the margins are not that great, but it definitely helped us keep us on the surface. It definitely helped us keep in touch with our clients, and many of our clients are friends, and we know them personally, and otherwise they would just be looking at our boring never changing Facebook page because nothing in tourism really happened here in 7 or 8 months now.
Yeah.
And yeah, it definitely also helped us extend or raise our or get more new clients that otherwise would not have found us if it wasn't for being able to order Hungarian wine, and then hopefully when tourism comes back, they will say, okay, I've been watching these guys on Facebook for 8 months. It's time to meet them in person, and it will be time to meet us in person for sure. Sorry.
I was just going to say, yeah, I think that's how I see the virtual landscape of virtual tours playing out. It's having something that's tied in with a physical product that they can purchase, or being part of a tour. It's like an added enhancement to the experience. And yeah, like you say, you basically did it for free, and using it as for brand awareness, and that has brought you hopefully new customers and potential customers in the future. And I think that's where the strength lies in that type of content and doing sort of virtual tours in that sort of way. It's not something that's maybe going to generate you lots of revenue at the moment. As you said, the margins were tight for the amount of effort you have to put in, but it's thinking about when we do open back up again and restrictions are lifted, it's what that's going to do for your business further down the line. And it's just bringing more and more people to you, because that content is going to be online forever. The video could be online forever, and someone stumbling across that in a year's time could eventually visit you and want to do an actual physical tour or whatever. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, 2 more things. One is that then we also there was a lot of interaction and a lot of interest in these tastings. So we did start selling private virtual tastings. So that would be for private groups, and we still don't charge for the tasting. You're required to buy 18 bottles of wine as a group. It can be sent to multiple different locations, and then we do the tasting free of charge, provided you order 18 bottles. And it's been very popular on both the EU and the US level. And also we still pursued with another old plan. We did open a tiny little wine shop here in Budapest, which is a brick and mortar shop. And there really is no tourism here right now. Borders are closed, so there are no foreigners. So this is definitely just targeting locals, Hungarians and expats living here. And again, it does create a job for one of our sommeliers, and it's actually really exciting and something totally new. And we wanted to do this for a long time, but we never had a chance, and we were never pressured to do it because we were just busy with our tourism business. So now actually locals are coming in and talk to us, and they say, okay, yeah, I've seen that you guys have been around, but I never came in because you guys were always full. And now we start to have a small local following as well, which is great, and it's also a keeper.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And I do have to ask, Don mentioned there about the legalities of sending alcohol even to different states. The infrastructure you must have created for that to send alcohol to different countries, etc., must be quite considerable. How did you get sort of around all the red tape with that?
It's incredible. Yeah, we started working on this about a year and a half before COVID started. So this was always in the plans. 60% of our clients were from the US, and at a wine tasting, when you have good wine, the final question is always, how am I going to get this wine home, and how am I going to be able to purchase something similar to this wine? And the answer was, it's not that easy. You can't really do it. So since Carolyn is American, I have a green card. We applied for an import license there, and you need a lawyer, a consultant, and another lawyer, and a couple of more consultants to really learn how this works. It took me a good year and a half. It took Carolyn build the website, and so a lot of things went into it. But at the end of the day, it's really something nobody else does, or definitely not that I know of, or not anywhere near me. And now people, when people come back and they have go on a tasting here, then they can order the wine, and many of these wines are already in our warehouse in the US, and they can be sent to their house probably a day after they get back. So yeah, there's a lot of bureaucracy. On the EU level, it's really simple. It's really like one big country. There are barely any restrictions.
Well, until the UK comes out.
Nobody really even prepares for that.
I'm here in Scotland in the UK, and I don't even know what the hell's going on. So it's no one knows. I don't even think the government knows yet until I don't know when. But there we go. That's going to be interesting. Because I was going to say, I do like my wine, so I think I shall be ordering some wine from you, and I'll be keeping all 18 bottles for myself. I won't be passing that out to anyone. So
thank you so much.
Well, I'm conscious of time, so I just wanted to ask one more question before we see if we have any questions from the people are watching and viewing. So anyone who is watching and listening to this live stream, please do send in your questions, and we'll put them to the guys here. So I'll start with yourself again, Gábor, and work my way sort of in reverse. Where do you see? I'll rephrase that. If someone was coming to you asking for advice on how to pivot a business, or what's the first things they should look at if they're really struggling to think of different ideas, or look at different ways of changing their business to make sure they survive? So what advice would you give them in preparing for that?
Well, this is a tough question. We were lucky that we already had a product that we could rely on without having any services, running. So that was a huge benefit. If this happened, 6 years ago, I don't know what we would have done. I mean, I really don't know what we could have done. For like independent guides, many of our guides, started doing something totally different, from pizza delivery to whatever. And actually, what we do now, we're no longer a tourism company anymore, or at least at this point, we're not a tourism company. We are a wine sales and wine logistic company that is hoping that these new foundations and these new legs that we put down are actually going to be permanent legs after tours come back. But even after putting all of this work, and we're saying we pivoted and everything, we survived. That's
which is what this chat is all about. It's just making sure you survive in business. So
yeah. And we hopefully build something that will stay. Advice, for independent tour guides, I think they like what I see is that they have to take a break, and they did something totally different, and I think they should just enjoy that they are doing something else, and they can come back fresh and motivated when this is over.
Yeah, no, good advice.
I guess this is not a great advice, but
no, sometimes. No, I was saying this to Lauren earlier on before we came on chat. Sometimes it's just taking a step back and reevaluating where you are in life and everything else. No, it allows you to refocus a lot of your efforts on the things that really matter. And if it does mean taking a step back for a few months and parking your fleet like Daud did, or closing everything down and just making sure that you've got the right headspace to then continue. It's the mental health side of things is vastly important. So it's just making sure you put yourself in the right headspace for that. So if that's what you have to do, that's what you have to do. So Don, yourself, the same question, but any advice you would give?
Yeah, I came up with three concepts. I'd say the first is to use the core competencies that exist, not just with you, but also with your team. What Lauren said earlier, use the talent. I think the cookbook is a great idea, for example. That is not what you normally would do, but wow, what a great way to use the talent that you have. And so sometimes it's about developing a product that fits your brand rather than going too far afield and trying to create something that was too extensive. Excuse me. I saw in the comments somebody said, "Oh, I created this virtual safari. It took a lot of time and effort, and it was for free, and it really didn't result in any sales." But Chris, you said it, I think, 3 times. Maybe not right away, but it lives out there and it exists, and people will find that at some point in time. The second thing I would say is similar. It's start with something that's small, that's safe. For us, it was interviewing partners. It wasn't going too extensive. There wasn't a lot of equipment that was required. And finding, the way to tell the story in a different way was very similar to what our partners are trying to do, which is get their story told about how to get their products. So maybe it is a class, maybe it is just a discussion, maybe it's somebody in your team who has a particular talent. It is about staying engaged with your customers, both past and future, but also keeping your brand in front of the public eye. And then the third thing I would say is that if you do have something that's working, even just a little bit, promote it like crazy, get it out there, and don't be afraid to pitch to traditional media, because they are absolutely desperate for good news stories, especially in tourism. And we've had great success with coverage on TV and print, and been interviewed a bunch about the successes we had with our tours. So although that's is a scary thing to pitch to traditional media, they're there and they're ready for those good news stories right now.
Yeah, I can't agree more. The traditional side of things, has been huge over this period, and yeah, you're right. Whether it's a newspaper or whether it's a radio station or anything that's a good news story, especially within the hospitality or the tourism sector or anything like that, is they lap it up at the moment. So anything you do with that PR piece is excellent. Very good advice. Daud, yourself, any advice you would give?
Yeah, and I think my advice would be basically to look at your situation and look at what your options are. I mean, you have a best case scenario and you have a worst case scenario. And I mean, if you're able to use what you have to make money or to repurpose it, do that. If you can make walking tours, I mean, we try to do walking tours. You can try different things. If it's effective, great. And if you're able to get lucky and make it work, great. And we got lucky. We were able to figure things out. But if you can't, then unfortunately, you have to make those hard decisions to survive through. You have to make those cuts. You have to do what's necessary to make it through to the other end. And so not everybody's situation is very different and very unique. And so you really have to look at what you have and what assets you have, or what maybe it's your team members. And we've heard great stories from Lauren and Don and Gábor about how they were able to utilize your resources and their expertise and their knowledge and leverage that. And each one of us has done it differently. So I think every person out there in the tourism industry is unique in their capabilities and their expertise, and they really should lean on their strengths and see whatever they can do. Right? It's survival mode. So as long as you make it through the other end, that's that's the whole game here.
That's it. No, you hit the nail on the head. It really is individual to the businesses, the situations you're in. With yourself being where you are. America closed. And the type of tours that you have. There's very little options that you have left open to you. So hence you have to look outside the box, as it were. So yeah, it is individual, but there's anything you can do to survive, and if it means making some hard decisions, you're going to have to do that as well. So yeah, good advice.
Just one more thing. Yeah, I mean, best case scenario, we have still 4, 5, 6 months like this ahead of us. So there's still plenty of time to learn new skills or develop something new.
For sure. Yeah, although there's the news of the vaccine, you're going to be at least looking at spring before that starts being distributed out properly to the general public and everything else. So yeah, you're looking at another 3 to 6 months, I think, before things go back to some form of normality, but whatever that normality is. So yeah, I agree. Lauren, yourself, any advice you would give?
Sure. Well, I always go back to the idea of going deep into your purpose. You might discover that your business is no longer suits you. But I think you have to. Your purpose is, why are you here, and what is it that you do that is other people want, and how can you share it? And I think you continually kind of get out of your way, and say, how can I share what I do? And I think resilience. I think you've got to realize that we're all here for a reason, and you're here for a reason, and that your community around you, you're not alone. And I found the more that I did things that were interesting and new, that people would say, that's great. And I became an inspiration, and I in turn wanted to inspire others. So I think that is very important. And I think it used to be sort of hope for the best and plan for the worst. And I've kind of traded the order. It's sort of like plan for the worst and hope for the best. But hope cannot go away. Every day has to be just as much hope as you can find in everything that you can find. Whether, for me, like I said, it's a bike ride, and I find a tremendous amount of hope from being outside. And I think talking to customers, you just can't. I call them guests. I mean, my friends, my family, they're my extended family, and I talk to them as much as possible, and they support me. They keep, it's almost like I imagine them all, behind my back all the time, and and anybody supported in my life, I just sort of imagine them there. And I'm enjoying the journey of the pivot. I'm enjoying, like, wow, this is a chance. Like right now, the phone would be ringing. We'd be taking all kinds of sales. It's not ringing. And well, okay, well then what else could I do with that time? Why am I here? And gratitude every day, even from the beginning, I write down what I'm grateful for. And it could be very simple. And it usually is. And just always do what you love. And I'm, for me, in my, as I was sort of scaling up to be big, I'm willing to go very, very small. I'm willing to go, and I'm willing to stay there, because small is beautiful. It was one of my favorite books in college, Schumacher, and small is beautiful. And I think that that's something that we're all, discovering in these times. Animals are out there doing what we have to do every day. It's sort of like we can learn a lot from, around us. And, I think that idea that, remaining small and also local. I think I've always loved local, but I think everyone, our customers and companies are learning what is beautiful right in our own backyard. And that doesn't mean that you won't travel beyond it, but you'll take those lessons and you'll take them beyond. But knowing, I really think it's exciting that my customers went to the Finger Lakes with me, and they said, oh my God, I never realized the Finger Lakes was so beautiful. Oh my God, I never knew Southern New Hampshire was so amazing. It's like Tuscany. I'm like, oh yeah, really? Whoa. It's not like, Southern New Hampshire. I grew up in Southern New Hampshire. It's like Tuscany. Okay, I'll take that. And, and to see the joy in their faces that what I'm doing, even though it's not in Italy, it's okay. And I'm doing my magic here, just like I would, we're doing our magic here, just like we would do it in Europe. So your magic doesn't have to be what you did 2 years ago. Your magic can still be in you, and you do it in a different way. And that is my message that's my self-talk all the time. So, I have to be optimistic. I was born that way. But I have to be also realistic. And this has been a year of realism for sure. So, and a plan, not only a plan A or a plan B, but a C and a D and an E and an F. It used to be plan A and plan B, but I go right down the line. It's like, okay, what's the plan E? And I got a plan F, and I've never had a plan F. But, if this doesn't all work out, I guess I'll hop on my bike and ride around the world. I've always wanted to do that. So, that's always out there. That still is who I am and what I'm about. And so anyway, those are my piece of advice. And if anybody wants to give me a call, find me, and I'm happy to chat with any small business person or whatever. I love to connect with anybody out there.
Excellent. No, great advice from everyone. So I'll quickly go to see if we've got any questions. There's actually more statements than questions, and people agreeing with everyone here and everything else. So I'm going to first look over at the Travel Massive website. Frank, who's one of our avid watchers and listeners, says, I love Lauren's attitude to calling and reconnecting one customer at a time. Absolutely right. And I think, no, it's almost a forgotten art, that, of actually speaking to someone and picking up a phone and talking and everything else, because it all tends to be online these days. So he completely agrees with you. Let's see if there's anything else. Peter Troubles, some uplifting stories tonight. How easy will it be to generate totally new customers post-COVID? Will there be a general reticence of, will you all initially rely on existing contacts, friends, friends of friends, etc., to get things moving again. So I suppose what he's asking was, do you think things will pick up where they left off when COVID comes, or when COVID sort of restrictions are lifted and COVID is sort of in the past, or do you still think there'll be harder work to convince people to take out products? Does anyone want to?
I'm on that. I lived through 9/11, and that was awful, right? So, what I discussed, similar thing, but every year, this year's been 9/11 every day. But 9/11 taught me who was more resilient, who was going to really be in trouble for the long run, the people that were sort of fickle and we're going to do a bike tour just for the fun of it. And this is a time, so I believe the answer to the question is yes. People love it to experience life, and they will want to get beyond their Zoom calls. But they're gonna be people that you never thought are going to be out there. So there's always someone that wants to experience what you love.
Yeah. Anyone else want to add anything to that one? No. Okay.
Well, I don't know if it's going to be the same immediately. I mean, at some point, I'm sure it's going to be busy again. But I'm also, if it's not, that's almost, I would say that's almost fine with me too, because these new legs and services, trying to engage with the locals is just as exciting as what we were doing before. And we are food tours, so that's still, even on the, even if tourism comes back, food tourism is going to be probably the slowest segment of that to come back, because people will be a little bit more freaked out about sharing food with other people or eating in groups, even if it's small groups. So what we're going to do, we're going to actually add a bunch of outdoor elements, or try to add a bunch of outdoorsy products combined with food and wine next year.
Excellent. Let me see if I've got any more questions here. Frank, again, just to sort of show, I think I can show this on screen. There we go. He loves Portland and Maine. I actually think he took out one of your tours in the past. So there we go.
Frank, thank you for your support. I also saw Ron as a past guest who's in the chat. So thank you for your support. Come back when you can.
Let's see if we've got anything else. Hoping, there just seems to be a lot of statements. Yeah, in fact, that one that was mentioned earlier about Chantal doing a virtual experience, a virtual safari, spending lots of time to prepare, but not had any sales from it. No, I see virtual tours very much like taking out an ad in a newspaper. The first time you do it, you're not going to see anything happening from it. But if you are taking out that ad for 7 months, the more people who see it, the more awareness that you're raising. Eventually, you'll get more and more people looking at your product, looking at your website, and then maybe inquiring. To give you an example, we're helping a company who does safaris in Africa as well at the moment. No one is booking at the moment, pretty much any tour. No one's really booking at the moment, especially multi-day tours and safaris like that at this moment in time. But what she certainly has done over the last 2 months, running some Facebook ads, is had over 300 people inquire and ask for a quote for next year. So people are actually looking just now, maybe not necessarily booking, maybe the sales aren't quite happening yet, but they're certainly inquiring and the demand is certainly there. So I would keep at it. Like everything else, and you've heard from the guys here, a lot of this stuff is hard work, and it is hard work. No, there's no, if anything, we're all working harder now to make things work and to make ends meet. But eventually, the more and more you do these things, the more and more you'll raise that awareness of your brand, and you will get sales from it. So my own business, doing these videos, doing the digital tourism show, doing the podcast that I do, that's taken, that's been over 3 or 4 years, but during that time, about 95% of the inquiries my business gets is all through that content. We hardly do any paid advertising for my own business. And that's where it is. It just takes time. It's just keeping at it, keeping producing content, getting it out there, and eventually the sales will come from it. So, right, let me see if there's anything else. Don't see anything. A lot of people just saying very inspiring. There's just a question here from a Facebook user, don't have the name. Is virtual tourism working to make sales, especially for small guest house operators? Would appreciate to know. Again, just like we mentioned there, virtual tours, yes, you can make a little bit of money from it, possibly, but don't expect it to generate lots of revenue. Although if it's tied in to maybe a product like what Gábor is doing, that's where you can maybe make some revenue from it. But the margins, as Gábor has said, is tight. Just depends on the type of product you have. But feel free to email me. We can have a discussion offline, and we can maybe look at that as well. Well, I don't see any more questions there. In fact, there's one there from Vitaly. Let me just get rid of that question if I can. There we go. So Vitaly on Travel Master, if I make this the last one. Are you going to integrate virtual tours into your traditional tours on an ongoing basis? After COVID, do you think that's going to be something you'll continue to do for those guys who are running virtual tours? Or do you think it will be something that you'll probably just forget about after a certain amount of time, go back to your traditional type of tours? And he's also asking, do you see maybe gamifying that for private tours and adding some sort of gamification to it as well? So I don't know if, Don, if you've got anything or any.
Yeah, I would say we definitely have ideas to do that. And it's probably not about gamification, but it's about actually giving a preview. I think there's a reluctance to give away the store. You don't want to show all your secrets, but still people have to go to the place to experience it. So why don't they why don't you give them an opportunity to see what it's all about ahead of time and do a run through, record it, and then have it available. You could make that for sale as well. And it might be a low budget item, but you might get some easy money out of that just to show what the tour is all about.
Excellent. Well, guys, I've taken up enough of your time. I can't thank you all enough. There's been some inspiring stories from this. For the comments that I can see, and like I said, it's not really questions, but mostly statements. People saying, very inspiring. I see one on LinkedIn from Jeff Spence saying, your guests are very inspiring. Thank you so much. I can't thank you enough for you spending an hour of your time speaking to us all and sharing your thoughts on what has worked, what hasn't worked, and hopefully, you continue to do all the good work, and hopefully by this point next year we can maybe do a follow-up and see where everyone's at, and hopefully we're in a much better place than where we are just now. So that'll be good to do that maybe at some point next year, and see where you're all at that point. So thanks again, and I can't thank you enough.
Great, thank you.
Thank you all. Cheers.
Bye. Ciao.
Thank you, guys. This episode of the Digital Tourism Show was brought to you today by Rentrax, fully customizable rental management systems for tour operators. You can book your free demo at rentrax.com.